No one paid much attention when the principal introduced a new student. It was just another Monday morning, and students were too busy yawning or scrolling on their phones to care. The classroom buzzed with idle chatter, backpacks rustled, and the air was thick with boredom. But when the door opened and in walked the quietest boy they'd ever seen, something shifted, though no one realized it yet. His name was Amir. He stood with his shoulders slightly hunched, eyes low, clutching the straps of his backpack like a life jacket. The teacher motioned toward the back of the classroom, and Amir shuffled to an empty seat, not making eye contact with anyone. Whispers followed him, some mocking, some curious, but mostly indifferent. He didn't react. He just opened his notebook and started writing. At first, no one noticed anything special. Amir rarely spoke unless called upon. He ate alone during lunch. When students paired up for activities, he quietly accepted whoever was left. Most would assume he was just another quiet, forgettable kid. But behind that silence was something much stronger, something that would soon ripple across the room, the school, and even beyond. The first sign came in the form of a quiz. Ms. Rivera handed back the papers with a sigh. Most students groaned as they saw their scores. Then she said something that caught everyone's attention. Only one student got a perfect score. Amir. Heads turned, eyes blinked, murmurs rose. Some were surprised, some annoyed, and a few were skeptical. Amir just tucked the paper into his folder without so much as a smile. Bet he memorized the answers, someone muttered under their breath. But Amir didn't respond. He never did. Later that week, in the science lab, a group project was announced. Amir got paired with Ryan, the class clown, and two others who barely showed interest in anything beyond their phones. It seemed like a punishment more than a partnership. Ryan rolled his eyes. Great, the silent genius. But something changed during that project. Amir didn't boss anyone around, nor did he let the others coast. Instead, he quietly offered ideas, asked thoughtful questions, and helped everyone understand the experiment. He didn't dominate, he inspired. By the time they presented their results, even Ryan admitted, okay, that was kinda cool. Still, Amir remained reserved. He never bragged, never demanded attention, and never tried to fit in. But the class started to shift around him. It was subtle at first. Students who usually sat in the back started sitting closer to the front. The usual chatter during lectures began to quiet down. Even the troublemakers found themselves thinking twice before making a snide remark during class. And it wasn't just academics. One day during gym class, a soccer game turned aggressive. A player tripped and twisted his ankle badly. While most students just stood around awkwardly, Amir was the first to sprint across the field. He helped the boy up, offered support, and waved over the coach with urgency and calm. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't heroic, but it was something everyone noticed. From that day on, the whispers about Amir changed tone. He's actually kind of awesome. Did you see how fast he reacted? Why doesn't he talk more? But Amir's silence wasn't out of fear. It was focus. And that focus was contagious. Soon, others started asking for his help. First, it was quiet requests about math problems or essay structure. Then it grew. Students began to gather around him during study periods. Even those who used to mock him now sat beside him, taking notes diligently. Amir never rejected anyone. He never laughed at a wrong answer. He simply explained, encouraged, and moved on. One day, Ms. Rivera pulled Amir aside. I've taught hundreds of students over the years, she said, her voice gentle, but very few shift the energy of a classroom just by being themselves. You have something special. Amir looked up, unsure how to respond. I'm just doing my work, he said quietly. And that, she smiled, is exactly why it works. The following week, something remarkable happened. The class was tasked with creating a group presentation about leadership. Ms. Rivera encouraged students to vote for someone among them to lead the effort. Names were tossed around, popular kids, loud voices, known faces. But then, one voice spoke up. I vote for Amir. It was Ryan. At first, a few laughed, then others nodded, and within minutes, nearly the whole class had agreed. Amir was stunned. He hadn't campaigned. He hadn't even wanted to be a leader. But there he was, chosen by his peers not for his popularity, but for his quiet strength. He hesitated at first, but eventually stood at the front. "I don't know how to lead like others," he said, "but I can help us stay organized. If everyone works on what they're good at, we can make something great." And they did. The project became the most collaborative effort the class had ever experienced. Instead of one person doing all the work, everyone participated. Ideas flowed, respect grew, and when they finally presented, the entire room felt united in a way no one had seen before. Teachers began to notice. Other classes started whispering about Amir. And slowly, students from other grades would approach him in the hallway not to mock, but to ask for advice. Despite the growing attention, Amir stayed the same. He never bragged. He never changed his tone. He simply kept doing what he always did: show up, stay kind, and give his best. But the class around him, that was changing faster than anyone expected. During a student assembly one day, the principal introduced a new student council initiative. As part of it, they'd be recognizing one student each semester for their quiet leadership and positive influence. The award was called the Ripple Effect, meant for someone whose actions caused waves of change, even if they didn't shout to be heard. Everyone knew who the first recipient would be. As the principal called Amir's name, the whole auditorium erupted in applause. For the first time, Amir looked up with wide eyes. He walked slowly to the stage, a little unsure, but smiling for the first time in front of everyone. He didn't give a long speech. He simply said, "Thank you. I didn't expect this. I just wanted to do my part." That was enough. But what no one knew was the journey that led Amir here, the reason he worked so hard, the challenges he'd overcome before arriving at the school, and the true impact he was about to make on more than just his classroom. After the assembly, Amir became somewhat of a quiet legend, not the kind you see in movies, where fame changes everything. No, Amir remained the same calm, humble student. He still sat near the window, still brought a thermos of tea instead of soda, still listened more than he spoke. But now, students greeted him in the hallway. Younger kids waved shyly as he passed. Even some of the teachers stopped him just to say, "Good job." Yet beneath his polite smiles, Amir still carried something no one else saw. Something deeper, something unspoken. One rainy afternoon, Ms. Rivera caught him after class. "You know," she said, gently closing the door, "you've inspired a lot of people here, but I've always wondered, where did you find your inspiration?" Amir hesitated. He looked out the window, rain tracing paths down the glass. Back home, he finally said, "School wasn't easy." She nodded, encouraging him to go on. "My old school was in a rough neighborhood. A lot of fights. No working library. Teachers came and went. Most students stopped caring, some didn't even show up. I tried, but it was hard." He paused, voice softer. "My brother used to push me. He always said, even if everything falls apart, your mind is still yours. No one can take what you learn." He'd quiz me every night, help me stay focused when I felt like quitting. Ms. Rivera smiled. "Sounds like someone who believed in you." Amir nodded. "He did, even when I didn't." She tilted her head. "Did something happen?" He swallowed. "He passed away last year. Wrong place. Wrong time. After that, I couldn't stay. My mom thought a change would help, so we moved here." The silence was heavy but not uncomfortable. Ms. Rivera gently touched his shoulder. "He'd be proud of you." Amir nodded again, his voice thick. "I just tried to be who he believed I could be." That conversation never left Ms. Rivera's mind. She understood now that Amir wasn't just hardworking, he was driven by something deeply personal. And that depth was what made his impact so real. Weeks passed, and the classroom continued to grow both in grades and in kindness. Students who had once laughed at others now offered help. Group projects no longer ended in arguments. Even the shyest kids began to participate. One day, as part of a school-wide kindness initiative, a community outreach event was announced. Each class had to propose a project that would help the school or neighborhood. Ideas ranged from recycling drives to mural painting. But when Amir quietly raised his hand, the room went silent. "What if," he said, "we turn the storage room into a study space for kids who don't have one at home?" The idea landed like a spark. Students lit up. "We could add bean bags. I'll bring books. I can ask my cousin to donate furniture. No one laughed. No one dismissed it. Everyone leaned in. Over the next month, the class came alive. They fundraised, painted walls, assembled shelves, and collected used books. Amir guided the process not as a boss, but as the thread that held it all together. He made lists, scheduled tasks, and encouraged even the laziest students to pitch in. When the room was finally done, it didn't look like a dusty storage closet anymore. It was warm, inviting, full of color and light. A banner above the doorway read, "The Ripple Room, a place to grow." On opening day, Amir stood off to the side, watching as students explored the room. One boy sat in a bean bag, eyes wide, as he flipped through a book about space. A girl scribbled on a whiteboard, laughing with a classmate over a math riddle. And standing near the doorway, the principal looked at Amir with a quiet smile. "You've changed this place," he said. But Amir shook his head. "They changed themselves. I just helped a little." News of the Ripple Room spread beyond the school. A local newspaper covered the story. A charity donated brand new supplies. Parents began asking how they could help. Other schools reached out for advice on starting their own spaces. The ripple was growing wider. Still, Amir remained humble. He continued studying, still helped classmates, still kept his head down. But the world around him was different now, warmer, more united, more hopeful. Then came graduation. Students filled the auditorium, dressed in caps and gowns, buzzing with excitement. Families filled the rows. Teachers lined the stage. And when the time came to announce the valedictorian, no one was surprised when Amir's name was called. He stepped up to the podium slowly, holding a folded piece of paper. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice was steady. "I wasn't sure what to say today," he began, eyes scanning the crowd. "When I first came here, I didn't want to stand out. I just wanted to survive the year. But something happened. This class. You changed me." He took a breath. "I came here carrying pain, fear, and memories I couldn't shake. But instead of pushing me away, you pulled me in. You let me help. And in return, you gave me something even bigger, hope." He glanced toward the back, where his mother sat, wiping her eyes with a tissue. "I used to think being a leader meant being loud or popular. But I've learned it's not about being the one in front. It's about lifting others behind the scenes, about noticing the lonely kid, about choosing kindness even when no one's watching." He folded the paper and placed it aside. "You don't have to be the loudest voice to make a difference. You just have to be consistent. You just have to care." The room erupted in applause. Some stood, others cried. Even the students who once mocked Amir now cheered with pride. After the ceremony, Ryan found Amir outside, near the garden. He clapped him on the back. "You know," he said, grinning, "if someone told me last year that I'd be getting life advice from the quiet kid in the back row, I'd have laughed." Amir chuckled. "If someone told me I'd be giving a graduation speech, I would have walked the other way." Ryan nodded, serious now. "Thanks for showing us what really matters, man. You didn't just change the class, you changed all of us." And he wasn't wrong. That year, Amir moved on to college with a scholarship in hand and a heart full of purpose. But the class he left behind? They kept growing. They started kindness clubs, volunteered more, helped each other without being asked. The culture had shifted, and it all started with one quiet student who believed in hard work, humility, and heart. So, to every student who thinks they have to be loud to be heard, or popular to be powerful, remember Amir. Because sometimes, the ones who speak the least are the ones who change the most.